a specialist, but I do speak with quite a few bright minds in the blockchain space on a daily basis. I'm Becky Legiro of CoinGeek.com. So I've been in the iGaming industry for about 20 years, and for the past, I'd say, decade or so, I have been studying and reporting on blockchain technology and where it intersects with other future technologies such as AI and IoT. But today, we are going to talk about how blockchain is going to impact the iGaming industry. And as I see it, blockchain's kind of been pushed into the background a bit, and now everybody's focused so much on AI. This is like the hottest, sexiest topic around. But what I wanted to find out today is, has the iGaming industry truly harnessed blockchain for what it can do for us? Or is it just going to be payments? Let's find out what the experts think, since our panel is called Blockchain Revolution, Unlocking the Potential of Web3 Across Industries. Let's see how it goes. So I'd like to invite my panelists on the stage. Please come join us. Yes, and as they are coming up on stage, just to let you know how the panel is going to run, we've got about an hour to discuss these topics. And I would love for questions from the audience. I will break halfway through and proactively ask you guys if you have questions, and at the end. But if something comes up when we're talking, try to maybe grab my attention and I'll see if we can get it answered for you in the moment. But enough from me. I want you to hear from the experts I have beside me here. So we'll start out with having you guys introduce yourselves and explain how you were involved with the blockchain and Web3 space. Andre, I'll begin with you.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Andre. I'm a lawyer from Romania. I'm representing Baciu Partners, which is a law firm focusing on several regulated industries. During the past decade, I've been heavily involved in gaming. And with gaming being always an innovative industry, I started working also on mandates concerning blockchain. And our latest, let's say, concern relates to MiCA implementation and how it impacts also the gaming sphere.
Very nice. Anna.
Hello, dear audience. My name is Anna Agu. I'm a managing partner and co-founder at Lex Law Office. We are a law firm based in Baltics, and we have offices in Tallinn, Estonia, and Vilnius, Lithuania, advising the clients from mainly emerging technology sphere, iGaming, Web3, FinTech, and beyond. I will be glad to contribute to this panel, and I'm advising the clients from the crypto and Web3 space since 2017. We do have the clients from more than 30 countries, and super excited to be here on this panel. Thank you.
Joseph?
So I got involved. So I've been in the gaming industry for 18 years, but at some point in time I got bored of just doing gaming, and I wanted to find something else interesting. So in 2016, I bought my first Ethereum. I had to buy Bitcoin at the time to buy Ethereum, so I bought my first Bitcoin and my first Ethereum 2016. And things were going great, obviously, from an investing point of view. And I said, oh, wow, okay, this could be a very interesting field where I could diversify rather than looking at aviation or other more traditional things. I said, this is really my field. And since 2016, I set up a department within my firm focusing on crypto particularly. Then obviously over the years it evolved into more of a financial services practice, but with a big focus on fintech, so crypto, EMIs, PSPs, and so on. We also do investment services, but that's how I got into it. Then obviously nowadays 90% of my time, I would say, is about fintech. And we assist clients to get MiCA licenses. We also assist clients with some creative and interesting technology innovation that requires our assistance, and we've been advising in that field for the past 7 years now.
Very good. So as you guys can see, we have quite a bit of experience here from the fintech space, lots of knowledge about regulations such as MiCA, so you're going to learn a lot. But before we dive into the details of the panel, I wanted to set the stage here, just give you guys an idea of an overview of what you potentially will learn here today, hopefully. And we can maybe see at the end how people's opinions have changed after everyone has talked. Let's see. Okay, so what I want to know from each of you guys is, what's the #1 way you think blockchain is set to disrupt the iGaming space? business models in the iGaming space. So I'm going to start with Andre because you're next to me on that one.
In very short, I think blockchain is a lot about transparency and fairness, and that's an important thing when we are speaking about gaming. So, as we all know, basically fairness in gaming nowadays concerns in software products, in RNGs that are tested for fairness by certain independent companies, and they are not 100% fair, so to say, at least from a theoretical perspective. So blockchain for sure can help bring another layer of fairness, and also the transparency side of things will probably make the industry sound more, I wouldn't say legit, because it is absolutely legit and regulated, but probably in the eyes of the players at least, it will sound more transparent, yeah.
Excellent. We'll definitely dive into that in a little bit. Anna, please.
I would like to raise attention to maybe licensing and regulation perspective, because it's very easy when you have a centralized gaming provider, but what's happening if it is a decentralized? Let's say we have Dexo, who is offering the betting services online without any kind of the legal entity behind it. Who will be responsible for this? A lot of interesting regulatory and compliance challenges are behind this process, and blockchain is involved. So it's interesting time for both industries, how they will develop and how we will find the, let's say, compliance solutions that will work for the market.
Excellent. Joseph.
How many of you remember Zynga Poker on Facebook? So I remember a time where people used to play Zynga Poker a lot. There was a massive craze about Zynga Poker, and these people used to just win these, I forgot what they were called, the virtual coins, which couldn't really do anything about it, but some smart people found a way how to monetize that as well by selling their Facebook accounts, because they had so many of these coins, Zynga coins, I forgot the name. And I believe that rather than disrupting the current iGaming industry, blockchain is going to create slowly a different iGaming industry, in the sense that I totally agree with what my colleague said. So especially Anna's point is very interesting, like these decentralized platforms, who is responsible for them, and so on and so forth. That is very interesting. But I think even more interesting than that is the use of NFTs as the tracking mechanism of your performance in the game. And I believe that people will actually start selling their NFT because they gained enough experience, or a lot of experience, in their gambling, and people will want to flaunt that NFT. And I know that right now everyone thinks NFTs are, and the craze about NFTs has finished, there's no real use case for them anymore. I believe that the biggest and most interesting invention, let's call it invention, in crypto is NFTs, because NFTs you'll manage to track all the transactions that happen. They will be all basically searchable within that NFT. They are all logged within that NFT. And the fact that you can have that history and that experience logged into your NFT, that will increase the value of the NFT as well. And I believe a time will come where free-to-play gambling is going to become extremely, rather than free-to-play gambling without a prize, is going to become extremely popular, and it will be used also to circumvent certain regulatory restrictions. I'm pretty sure of that. Because at the end, you can still monetize it by selling your NFT. And I think that is something where operators should start looking at, because especially with younger generations, we're seeing it like with the convergence of, or what nowadays we call it the gamification of gambling and stuff like this. I believe that a lot of young people are bored of playing those boring games that, yes, certain generations will never change. They will keep on playing those same games that they have been playing all along. I think the younger generations, and we're seeing this in Asia in particular, are bored of these traditional, typical games that are all the same. There's no way you can influence the result. They want to have that something that it's more of flaunting how good you are rather how much you win. And it's the social media society we're in. And I think the younger generations will be more interested in something like that rather than playing the usual roulette, or even worse, the slot, and so on and so forth. I might be wrong, but I would put my a bet on that.
I can't tell you how much I love seeing all these different perspectives. I come at the blockchain space from a transparency kind of base layer. So this is all very interesting to hear all the different ways that blockchain can influence iGaming. Right, okay. So since Web3 is in the title of our panel, I did want to take a second and have you guys define what Web3 even means, because this is kind of one of those terms that I don't know if it means anything at all. You probably all have a different definition for it. So just so everyone's on the same page, let's hear, Andre, how you would define Web3.
Well, we don't have like an official definition, but it's so-called a new era of internet, a decentralized internet with digital identities and decentralized finance and so on. Honestly, this is, let's say, the general definition. I remember like in 2016 or something when this new thing with blockchain emerged. For some businesses, at least from my perspective, it sounded more like a marketing stunt rather than an actual thing. Yeah. I hope it's not going to be the same with Web3, because it seems that it has some potential, but again, you might see businesses link themselves to Web3 just to look good.
I would like to add on this, because I actually really liked, Andre, that you pointed this out, because I also do remember after the several scandals with fraudulent activities in crypto industry, with the ICOs and scams, using this Web3 word as a brand was something new. I'm not related to crypto, I'm really related to the Web3, and this is not bad thing. Crypto is bad thing and Web3 is not. But coming back to your question, I would like to add this maybe historical part. So if someone is not familiar with the Web3, you can ask, okay, what is Web 1 and Web 2? The answer is like Web 1, this is our, let's say, first era of the internet, when the user had the chance to get the information online. So basically this read possibility on the website. It was from 90s till 2000. From 2000 till now, or I would like to say that till 2021, 22 maybe, we are having Web 2, which means like possibilities of the advanced internet, meaning like read and interact, or read and write with the social media apps, Google, Facebook, etc. So interaction of the user is important. And Web 3, this is a new era of the internet when you can read, interact, and own. Ownership of the data, this is the basis of the Web 3. And the idea behind this decentralization that Andre mentioned, and owning the data by the users, not the centralized entity.
Wonderful.
It's so tough to speak after these two, because they're taking all the arguments. So you have to invert the rotation at some point in time, Becky. No, I see it sort of, it's a more simplistic definition, let's say. But Web 2 is the two-dimensional internet, and Web 3 is the three-dimensional one. And it comes with, obviously, as Anna said, the users are now more in control of the web, up to a certain extent, of course. But also, there's the element of the metaverse. So, and I believe that the concept of Web3 started when everyone was thinking that the metaverse was going to be a thing, which is a three-dimensional environment within the web. I still believe that the metaverse has a future, although we're not seeing it right now because every project is failing. But to be honest with you, and to be fair, the metaverse was really helped out by the pandemic. If there was a time when it could succeed, was the pandemic, but unfortunately it didn't. And I think one of the biggest problems is because the entrepreneurs in the industry focused more on certain areas rather than others. So if I were, and maybe it came a bit early, so we had just started using for example, online meetings. Yes, Skype existed ages ago and we've been using it for many, many years, but the real big innovation came with Zoom, I guess, and Zoom had just started a few months before to become quite popular for meetings, and I believe had we been in a more advanced stage, I think one of the greatest innovations for Web3 would have been, the metaverse would have been having conferences on the metaverse. Unfortunately, no one really managed to tap into that successfully, but I still believe that if you can create the panels, it's very easy to recreate them, but no one comes to conferences just for the panels. Yes, we attend some of them that are interesting and so on, but you can easily do that online. But people go to conferences for the networking. And there's nothing that can compare to face-to-face networking, except if we get used to using our own avatar to be placed in a room where we can actually interact sort of face-to-face. And that is where I feel that many people have not, and many entrepreneurs have not tapped into. They focused on gaming, but not everyone plays. So I believe that, to be honest, there was a missed opportunity there, also because of the timing, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys can see, there's a lot of different definitions for Web3. It can mean a lot of different things to different people.
And it's going to be fun when we come to Web4.
And yeah, yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Yes, Anna.
Becky, can I add maybe some kind of additional samples? What is under the scope of Web3? So we have absolutely the same ground. So if we are talking about the Web3, different solutions on different products can be considered as a Web3. We are talking about virtual assets, digital currencies. We are talking about NFTs, DAOs. We are talking about digital identity projects. We are talking about also the smart contracts. And what is also interesting and like developing trend is the social network for the Web3, when we do not have a centralized entity and basically the users are owning the content, there is no legal entity behind it. So all of things are actually under the Web3. And if we are talking about the numbers, in 2024, it was 3.1 billion USD dollars, the market cap, and it's considered to be growing 40% within 10 years. So we are actually talking about the emergent technology, which will impact a lot our potential life within the next 10 years. That's why this panel should be very excited for you.
Yes, very exciting. And I think that the one aspect of Web3 that we're going to start with is digital payments, crypto payments, this sort of thing. But in order to understand that landscape and the opportunity there, we need to understand the regulations that are going to impact any innovation going on your side before you enter the space. I'm going to start with you again on this one, Anna. I know this is you know so much about Mika. So can you explain to our audience here what they really need to be focused on before even thinking about adopting digital payments and crypto?
I believe that it is important to explain that digital payments doesn't mean exactly crypto, but if we are talking about the crypto payments, then it is heavily regulated market now in Europe. MiCA is a European fundamental regulation for the virtual assets market, and basically companies who would like to provide the services which will be considered as a virtual asset services, for example, exchange, wallet solution, custodian wallet solution, transfer of the crypto funds, also advising on the crypto assets, also the placement of the orders, etc. They are under the scope of the MiCA regulation, which means that they need to get the license from the member state when they are registered and comply with the several rules which are absolutely similar or even more tough that traditional financial institutions need to comply. MiCA regulation is applicable in the European Union for the assets reference token and e-money token since the end of June 2024. And for the virtual asset service providers, it is applicable from the 1st of January 2025. And different countries are having the different transition period for the companies who are already regulated now and before the MiCA. So it's interesting time for the industry in general, but I will give a chance to my colleagues to comment as well. In terms of the different approach by the jurisdiction, I think it's also interesting for the audience, right?
For sure. Andre, I'm sure you have some
I will let Joe first, because for sure in Malta they are far more evolved than in Romania.
So, yes, well, in Malta, we were granted also the possibility of making use of the simplified procedure to transition operators that were licensed under the Malta framework to MiCA, because our framework was actually tougher than MiCA. So it's a no-brainer that those that were licensed in Malta were already at a better level than what they are required to be under MiCA in Europe. In fact, we already have, I think, 7 licensed entities under MiCA. We have in total around 30 operators licensed in Malta under the old framework, 7 of which have moved under MiCA already. The others will move shortly, hopefully. The MFSA has also slowed down the transition now because it seems that there was some heat building up because all other jurisdictions were saying, how is Malta being so fast? And to be honest, the Commission had already approved Malta as being simplified procedure, but of course there are some authorities that are, so all authorities are equal except a few that are not. And in fact, we've seen 2 of these authorities that feel that they are not equal, that already gave licenses even though they didn't have a simplified procedure. So it's very strange how Buffin, for example, that had no regulation whatsoever on crypto except the AML registration, has managed to give licenses before Malta. So, but that's unfortunately the irony of Europe. But apart from that, yes, I believe MiCA, all in all, is a positive thing. First of all, it's the first pan-national regulatory framework in the world. When I say pan-national, I'm saying it applies to more than one country at the same time. So once you have a license from one jurisdiction within Europe, you're automatically licensed to operate all over Europe. You can passport your license all over Europe. And I think that is very, very positive because that allows operators to compete in all markets. They need to invest less because they don't need a license in every jurisdiction. And also it opens up for you a bigger market. Unfortunately, the European market is not that big when it comes to crypto. So compared to Asia and the US in particular, the European market is quite small. And that is on the negative side. Although MiCA is very reasonable as a regulation, it's tough, but it's reasonable. The biggest problem is coming with a lot of conflicting and confusing guidelines being issued by this body called ESMA, the European Securities and Markets Authority, which is actually the regulatory authority that oversees all the national regulatory authorities in this field. And unfortunately, ESMA is trying to be a bit more important than it should be in terms of obliging taking certain decisions that actually go beyond what the law says. And we've already seen the European Commission take certain stances, for example, on the AI Act, when they came up with obviously it's not ESMA in this case, but other regulatory authorities within Europe that came up with this liability directive. The Commission decided to pull it out. They are realizing that deregulation is important at this stage, especially seeing what's happening in the US. if we don't deregulate a bit, and I'm not saying we should go to the level of the US, but we need to deregulate a bit to keep our operators competitive with other regions in the world. And we can't think that Europe is the center of the world. So that is one. Another positive thing, so apart from these negatives, is that once operators are licensed under MiCA, they're going to have a big advantage in terms of being able to deal with traditional financial institutions. So it's going to be easier to find banking solutions. It's going to be easier to deal with other entities that they will need to deal with in order to grow their business. So I believe that MiCA, all in all, will allow operators to get accepted more in the traditional finance field, and also they will, I think it will help in general adoption as well. So that is also a very positive thing. But we need to start realizing that we need to keep a balance between regulation and allowing operators to grow their business rather than oppress them with over-regulation, which has become the story of our days in Europe.
Very good. And Andre, anything to add on the regulatory side?
Yeah, on the regulatory side, my story for Romania is going to be way shorter than Joe's, because basically we don't have any framework in Romania. As Anna was saying, there is a transitional period based on the data published by ESMA. Romania followed this transitional period, and basically until mid next year we don't have any rules. Prior to MiCA, they tried to create an authorization regime, which imposed quite a few requirements, among others to have an insurance of around 300,000 euros, to set bank accounts locally and so on. This has been dropped. And then the latest development comes from last week, when the law was amended, that basically now, even though we don't have a licensing regime at all virtual asset service providers need to appoint a point of contact in Romania, whatever that means, because probably neither the authorities know. They're just trying to...
Do you have an authority right now?
It's basically the national bank together with the, not the tax authority, the financial services authority.
But they haven't decided who will be the main authority, right?
No, no. And the only good thing is that political stakeholders are apparently wanting to do a tax haven in Romania for crypto, to apply a zero tax on revenues from crypto, but that's all.
What really amazes me about this is when I first learned about Bitcoin, I think it was 2011 or 12 or something, it was about payments, and it was within the gambling industry, and it was how to get around the regulations. It was basically how to get payments in and out without having to deal with regulators and with laws and rules, and here we are talking about how to abide by them. But back then too, we were talking about instant payments, peer-to-peer, making things super quick and very, very easy, taking out the middlemen. But I think we've moved far beyond that. I don't know if it's time to go back to basics to really unleash the real power of blockchain-powered payments here. But I wanted to get an idea from our panel how we can potentially cater to the younger generation, like Joseph said, by providing this instant payment, this instant gratification that they are looking for by using blockchain in the background there to power the payments. What opportunity is there? Since Anna's looking at me, I'll call on her first.
Yeah, I think those opportunities are already on the market. We do have the crypto processing companies who are providing those processing solutions to the payments in crypto, which are similar to the fiat, to the acquiring services, but the same only in crypto. So basically, if I have a shop who sells the bicycles and I would like to accept credit cards, cash, wire transfers, and for example, crypto, I'm signing the agreement with a crypto processing company, and they are doing this, let's say, technology job for me and providing the opportunity to open the corporate bank account for this bicycle shop to accept the crypto as a payment method. And actually, because we're talking about the blockchain technology, depending on particular currency, we are potentially talking about the faster transactions, especially if we are comparing the crypto transactions with the international payments. I mean, not SEPA instant payment, but for example, if you would like to make today the payment from, I don't know, Czech Republic to China, it will not gonna take you 10 minutes. It will last for maybe 2-3 days, and with the crypto you can effort this with a more affordable speed. So I think this is already existing, but there is also a lot of problems behind it, because if we are talking about the crypto asset service providers, the topic that we were discussed in the previous question, especially this regulation, before MiCA we had a lot of, let's say, crypto asset service providers who were unregulated and providing several interesting products and services for the market participants. But right now this environment will become more or less similar within the European Union, and we will see at least some kind of fundamental approach within EU. Interesting part is that, of course, we already see different approaches by the regulators or national governing authorities who are implementing the MiCA in different jurisdictions. So this is the case where we will see within, I don't know, 2-3 years some kind of clarity. However, I think that we can compare it to the traditional financial world, and for example, when the regulation for the payment institutions and e-money institutions came into the force, yes, there is a European regulation, but the approach of the national authorities is slightly different, and then for now we can confirm that some jurisdictions are more, let's say, affordable for the market participants. If you would like to create such business activity, you will go for this specific jurisdiction. However, potentially MiCA should prevent such jurisdictional shopping, but I think that we will see it in any case.
So, being the totally not politically correct person that I am, I believe that we have to start with the basics. Why was crypto created? Crypto was created as a protest against the big banks, against those that created the 2008 financial crisis. So we have to go back to basic to understand what this industry, how this industry has started. And circumventing regulations is actually one of the main reasons. So I'm not surprised that that is how you got to involved in crypto. And still, it is one of the main ways of this being done. So right now, a lot of gaming companies make use of crypto to circumvent payment blocking. But forgetting gaming for now, the main point here is one of the misfortunes right now is that everyone is looking at crypto the way Anna has mentioned it, like, we need to have the right wallets, they are regulated. The whole point is crypto, the nice thing about it is that you don't need these service providers. These service providers are only needed technically to exchange from one crypto to another, and not even really, because now with DeFi there is the possibility of doing it without anyone in the middle. But particularly they are required when you want to go back into the fiat world. So all the rest can be done outside of the regulated environment and outside of the use of these third parties, which is the most important thing, because the whole point of blockchain technology is to get rid of the middlemen. So every time we're using these providers, which have a purpose, of course, most of my clients are these providers, so I'm not going to speak foul of them, but rather we need to go back to why they are needed. They are needed to move into crypto and to move out of crypto, but for the rest, we shouldn't need them. Or if we want to trade, for example, that is fine. That is why we need them. We definitely do not need them so that I can send my crypto to Anna. We don't need that. So I think the most important thing, and I think where for the good of society, we need operators like Ledger, Trezor, and these that offer these hardware wallets, for example, is how to teach people to use them since their young age. The moment we manage to do that, I believe that there will be real adoption for crypto across the world. I think it's very crucial. If we don't manage to do that, we will just go back to what we were with banks. Rather than banks now have the crypto asset service providers, which is basically the same thing, because they're regulated by the same regulators. They have to adhere to the same rules. So what's the point of crypto then? We just use fiat money.
I totally agree. I can't stop nodding over here. Andre, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just one short note. I like very much Joe's point that all this phenomenon is basically a form of protest. So going to your question about the young generation and how they're gonna be able to work with instant payments with a lot of regulations involved, I think in the end, probably, if they want to do it, they don't care about the regulation. They're going to do it anyway, because all the time, the innovation is going to go ahead of legislation. That's going to come always after. So probably we will have to see what's going to happen, but for sure, the next big thing is going to happen, and afterwards, we're going to have a new law.
Okay, so I know I said I'd break halfway through. We're a little more than halfway through. Does anyone have any questions so far? Anybody? No. Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the MiCA. In my point of view, yes, implementation of the MiCA will partially kill like crypto in Europe because it is too strong. Because I think at this moment there's a lot of companies that have like regulation in our country. Yeah, but when the MiCA will come to force, yeah, they will be not able to work as they worked before. And I don't know, 80% of the entities will be closed. Yeah, they will be not able to obtain full regulation.
That's the result of regulation always, right? We've seen it in other industries. There will be a lot of mergers and acquisitions, a lot of money for lawyers, but unfortunately, I'm a romantic in every industry. Like, I like to see the small guy competing with the big guy. But unfortunately, for those of you who, like me, were in the gaming industry, nowadays it's impossible. You'll have the small guys, the startups that will set up a company with the aim of selling it, not with the aim of beating Bet365 or the aim of beating William Hill or what have you. Their aim is, maybe I'll be bought by Bet365. So that is unfortunately, I'm using Bet365, well, it's not one of the companies that gets involved much into M&As. But at the end of the day, that is not what I want. I want someone to give Bet365 good competition that makes them work harder to become better themselves. And this is the same with this industry. I'm afraid that with a lot of over-regulation, I would say, it's going to end up a situation where the smaller operators will have to sell to the larger operators because they will not cope. Unfortunately, that's the reality of regulation. I always say that regulation is a necessary evil. And I'm a former regulator, 6 years regulator. So, and I still say it because it is evil, definitely. It will always affect, it will definitely impact the the innovation in the industry, it will impact the growth in the industry, always, definitely. There's no other way. It will happen. But it's also necessary because we've seen time and time again that self-regulation doesn't work. We've seen it many, many times. It never works. It starts working well, then you'll have one bad player that will ruin everything. And there will always be a bad player. So at the end of the day, regulation is necessary, but it should only be used where necessary. So only when there is an issue that could really impact users, that's where regulations should be addressed. That's what a regulation should address. Where you have, for example, big risks of money laundering. Again, that's where regulation should be addressing. But again, it should address the real problems, not the invented problems, because most of the times we invent problems either because we're being lobbied, the states are being lobbied by big operators, because obviously big operators prefer having regulation, or if they're just using it as an excuse to control and take more money in terms of taxes. So that is unfortunately where we're seeing abuse of regulation. But if we had a proper regulatory framework, it would address only the main risks of that industry and then let the industry flourish and compete with each other in a very fair way, and allow people to create new businesses that can topple businesses that are much larger than theirs.
Teacher, yep.
Yeah, very interesting question, and Josep, I agree totally with everything that you said, and thank you for your transparency. I would like to add that we always would like to see not just regulation, but a smart regulation. This is an idea of the, let's say, fundamental, good regulatory environment. However, it's not working all the time in practice like this, and with the MiCA we need to understand that this is just the first layer of the crypto regulation. We will see a lot on the top, and we're already seeing this today. So if we're talking about the crypto as an industry, MiCA is one small part to comply. We also have DORA regulation, MLDeFi, DAC8, etc., DSA, so several regulations which are giving a huge impact on the industry. And yes, answer is 100% that only stronger market players will survive, because it will be a costly business. It will cost a lot to comply with the IMA rules, with the governance rules, with the technology rules, etc. So basically meaning that small startup with the two very smart developers writing the code for the smart contract and acquiring 10,000 transactions per day will be not possible anymore. At least it will be possible, but it will be legal within the European Union. And yes, we will see maybe also the let's say mergers and acquisitions, as Joseph said, but also I think some of the companies will move outside of the Europe, which is actually a pity situation. And for the governing authorities, it will be a very challenging aspect, how you will actually supervise those entities from the third countries who are actually selling the services for the European Union clients. Of course, we have the positions of ESMA. Of course, we have the MiCA clauses regarding this. But how it will be work in practice? If I have the company in Georgia and I'm offering the services, crypto, I don't know, let's say crypto exchange services, so all around the world, how you will track me, how you will suit me, which kind of supervisory measures you will implement on me. So it's very similar to the gambling problems several years ago, but we will see the same in crypto right now. However, if we are talking about the positive things, in addition to the consumer protection, in addition to the, let's say, transparent business environment, I would like to pay attention to the maybe access to the fundings, because right now getting funded by the biggest VCs is a very big challenge for the crypto industry in general. But if they will be regulated, if there will be strong brands on the market, it will be more access for the potential fundings for them. The answer is yes.
But these cusps are not decentralized, so the problem is, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, at the end of the day, that is why we should use cusps only to enter into crypto and to exit crypto. In reality, the rest of the services can all be done on-chain. And that is where the problem lies. As long as we're dealing with cusps, it's like dealing with banks. Yes, they are more innovative, just like EMIs are more innovative than banks, and we get better service from EMIs generally than banks. But at the end of the day, their regulatory framework limits them. It's not their fault. It's now they are obliged to follow certain rules that make them less attractive, less innovative, less efficient. And that is why I said we should avoid using cusps unless it is necessary to use them. And it is necessary to use them at today's day and age only to move into crypto and to move out of crypto.
Very interesting, guys. Thank you. Okay, so the last question that I have surrounding payments is about stablecoins. This is something I've been reporting on a lot over at CoinGeek, and I wanted to hear your opinion on what sort of opportunities there are, if any, for the iGaming industry to work with stablecoins and accept this as a method of payment in their casino. Andre.
I think it's hard to say. I think it depends on the market. I can tell you the example of the Romanian market, where we don't recognize any form of crypto, so including stable coins as fiat money. So in this logic, you cannot actually use it to gamble. In the same time, you can say that since a stable coin does not represent money, and you don't need a gaming license, because the definition of gaming in our jurisdiction, it's an activity that uses fiat money. So if you don't use it, basically you are out of the law. I'm not sure. I think that the future for the use of crypto in gaming depends on how each country will define what crypto is. As long as they're gonna say that they are a form of money, even if it's not, I don't know, regulated by the central banks, then we might see more links to gaming. But on the other hand, if they put it in that area, that gray area of, I don't know, speculation or something wrong, probably at least regulated operators in gaming will not touch that much on crypto.
Anything else to yeah. Anna, please.
I will be not so positive about the stable coins, let's say it like this. First of all, we do not have the legal term as stable coins anymore in the European Union. We have assets reference token, e-money token, and securities. And it's a very thin line which kind of token will be considered as what. Every time it should be evaluated. And to be transparent, I do not see any kind of specific value in stablecoins at all, except liquidity. So stablecoins are used by the virtual asset service providers, so OECDs, as a liquidity mainly, and it's for the iGaming industry. They are creating the opportunity to, let's say, fix the value. But in terms of the, let's say, crypto transaction or crypto adoption, etc., it's not giving any kind of super huge impact. And right now, this is, let's say, unclear situation in the European Union. What will be happening with the stable coins? Because there is an announcement of EBA and ESMA that actually non-compliant stablecoins should be removed from the compliant exchanges, meaning that, for example, USDT, which is the most common Tether, is not compliant. They are not authorized according to MiCA, and potentially virtual asset service providers who are, would like to be legal and compliant should remove those pairs from their platforms. And this creates a lot of argumentation and unclarity. Also, there is one interesting statement which should be, let's say, officially confirmed within some weeks. There was a conference where Apple presented their statements on the, let's say, dual licensing obligation for the virtual assets service providers who would like to process the stable coins. Meaning that they need to get, in addition to the virtual asset service provider license, also the PSP or e-money license, which is absolutely ridiculous, of course, but we will see how they will figure this out and which kind of the final statements they will provide on this. So I will say that stable coins as a concept in the European Union within the current regulation are with a very unclear situation at the moment.
I was going to say that for the first time I'm not in agreement with Anna, but she managed to save it in the end in the European Union. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah,
I think that stable coins, and by the way, I'm talking a lot of bad things so to avoid worse words about the European Union. I was one of the biggest activists in Malta to join the EU. So it's not that I hate the European Union, I just want it to be better. So my point is that yes, USDT and all other stable coins, I believe that they have a very important function because they represent something that people know, so they are fundamental for mass adoption. But, as rightly so put by Anna, stable coins in Europe are no different than e-money, e-money, electronic money, which we already have, which we had for many years over the past years. Especially if, what Anna said, if the EBA is going to say that all CASPs need also an EMI license, which would be totally crazy. But to be honest, everyone is expecting it because most of my clients right now are getting an EMI license as well. But once we realize what this means, it's basically, there's no difference between e-money and stable coins. In fact, they're already called them electronic money tokens. So at the end of the day, they're just trying to kill the use of stable coins as we know it. But you know what the problem is? This is just happening in Europe. And Europe is not the center of the world. It might be geographically, but definitely not economically.
For the sake of time, guys, I'm going to move on to a few topics just beyond payments. Not much, just a little bit. I know payments are important. I'm going to start with you, Joseph, on this one because I'm sure you remember the term trustless casino and provably fair and all these terms that came out in, I don't know, early 2010s when it came to blockchain and the iGaming space. Can you just walk us through what those mean and if there are opportunities now that maybe weren't
Try
available
to keep
then?
it short because I took
Yeah, I
like a lot of time from the panel.
Yeah, 8
but
minutes.
but yes, so blockchain enthusiasts like us, Becky, all want to see how blockchain can improve different industries. And having been both of us in the gambling industry for a long time, definitely, that is one industry that we would have liked to see improved thanks to blockchain. And on paper, blockchain is brilliant because it offers transparency, it offers immutability, it offers a bunch of other advantages that are perfect for the gambling industry. The problem is that the gambling industry does not cater for Tom, Dick, and Harry, but it actually caters for gamblers. And gamblers are probably the most boring and most traditional people in the world. So I advise, so apart from having been a regulator in the gambling industry for 6 years, I also advise and still advise casinos, land-based casinos. And it's crazy, when they change a machine and improve it, get a new one, sometimes they actually see a decline in revenues. Why? Because the people want to continue playing on that old machine that is full of dirt and that is like full of stains, the seat of that machine, because that's where they think they are going to win. If they go on a new machine, it's going to rip them of the money. So unfortunately, this is an industry, the gambling industry, that is very difficult to change. So it will take a generation or two for us to see the advantages of new technologies being effective in the gambling industry. And yes, I've seen, for example, I had a client, I can actually mention it because it was quite public, and it was public as a project, and also it was quite public that I was assisting them. So one of the biggest blockchain companies in the world, which is Consensus, which basically is the majority, let's say, influencer in the Ethereum community, created through one of its subsidiaries this P2P poker network. And where else can you see blockchain working in gaming if not in poker? The problem is that it was attracting blockchain enthusiasts, but not gamblers. And the moment you don't attract gamblers, you're not going to make money. So that, I think that sums it all. It sums all. So unless we're going to make use of the blockchain technology with in mind the traditional gambler, there's no point in investing money in it. In fact, most of the projects that try to involve blockchain have failed or have sort of failed.
Very good, thank you. And Andre, I just wanted you to elaborate a bit on a point you made in the beginning, which was how blockchain can be used for trustworthiness, transparency of data, this sort of thing, kind of maybe running in the background a bit. So maybe the gambler doesn't even need to know that there's blockchain involved in any way with the platform that they're playing on. But could you maybe give us some ideas of ways that we could look into that from the gambling space?
Yeah, probably they don't need to know everything. They just need to know that it's a safe environment where they can have an entertainment experience. But going to the actual fairness of things that I mentioned at the beginning, in gaming we have basically two types of randomness. One, it's digital, it's basically done via pure software. And another one, and this one is called pseudo randomness, and another one is true randomness, which, as far as I know, there is only one technology that can ensure this. It's based on the random deflection of light within a certain hardware equipment. It follows the same principle as the Geneva, how it's called, accelerator. So, of course, these are very complex technological aspects, but probably if regulators would be able to understand that blockchain can help on the transparency side of things, especially as Joe was saying on peer-to-peer products like poker, then that will help bring to market more gaming products that are not, so to say, tested based on all the old rules, on all certification rules. Yeah.
Super good point. Excellent. We have 3 minutes left, guys. Does anyone have a question that they want answered? Anybody? Okay, I don't think so. All right. So what we will do to close this out is a little bit of predictions. I know Anna loves these. When we're here next year, I mean, where do you think we are going to be with how blockchain is unlocking potential in the gambling space? What do you guys think? And I'll start with Anna because she's smiling.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. It's always very important to look for the future and do the predictions. However, I will be transparent and not very naive, and I will not going to say that within 1 year we will have the massive shift and the trees start blooming. No, all kind of, let's say, regulatory implementations are taking time. Also, we are having the problem with, let's say, you also mentioned this, that different industries are speaking different language. So alignment and speaking the same language is really important. Alignment between, let's say, Web3 industry and gaming or gambling industry. Also, in addition to this, in general, educational aspects are really important because we need to provide more information for both sectors on the potential collaboration, on the regulatory regimes, on the, let's say, IML topics, etc., etc. So what we will see, and potentially I would like to see, more communication, more education for both industries, and smarter regulations and more soft laws, rather hard laws.
Okay, 30 seconds, Andre.
If you want to go to an evolved country in terms of regulation and how they apply, go to Malta. if you want to be in a la la land with zero taxes, probably look at Romania.
And Joseph, 10 seconds.
So come to Malta, but I'm afraid that that definitely if we sit down and have the same panel next year, will be quite boring and we'll say exactly the same things. Maybe there will be a little bit more adoption, but it will take time, and I don't think things will change much by this time next year.
All right, let's see. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much, amazing panelists. Enjoy the rest of the conference.